Hey y'all, it's your girl Jada J. So I know what y'all are thinking. Didn't we just see you? Didn't you just upload a video? Yes. Okay, but I figured why not get started early? Okay, because there have been some things that I've wanted to talk about, and I've almost released the video, but then I didn't. Okay, so it's not too heavy, but it's not too light, and it is serious. Okay, so we're gonna start with something kind of generalized, and then we're gonna work our way through when now I'm picking up on a serious work because that's what I need to be doing. You feel me? Okay, so I want to start with this whole battle with y'all can see all you know what bananas and hot sauce. Yeah, got to get granola bars anyway. Serious. I want to talk about this battle, which is non-existent, but all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. Okay, so I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. So let's get into it, right? So you have your people who say all lives matter, which I'm gonna say it predominantly it's white people who do this. Come on now, sorry, but gotta say it. All right. Then we have our Black Lives Matter people. Okay, predominantly black people. All right, that's what most of them say. There's some of them who are kind of cooning a little bit, and they try and they just tilt. Okay, so what it is with all lives matter people, it's complete and utter ignorance. Whenever I hear, so I don't even want to hear the reasoning behind it because I already know it's ridiculous. Now I listen anyway because I'm not gonna shut you down. You could speak. But every time I have tried to get into the mindset of an all lives matter person, the only thing they're preaching to me is, well, Black Lives Matter only speaks for black lives. Okay, is there more? Is that it? Or are you... So, when I hear that, all I'm thinking is, oh, you're only saying all lives matter not really because you care about white people or whoever it is that you're defending, but because you're not included. You feel excluded. So therefore you have to find something to add yourself in because if not, you're uncomfortable. You see? Now, let me hear, and I've also heard it's a terrorist group. Now that's an absolute joke. So Donald Trump sat, and I've heard other people say it too, so let us not think it's just Donald Trump. Oh no. They all share that ideology somewhere deep down. You understand? Some of them are just brave enough to say it. When have you seen Black Lives Matter go to a protest and shoot the whole thing up? I know they're not talking about because there was a situation a while back where Black Lives Matter, they showed up, I think, don't quote me, I think Bernie Sanders was speaking, and they showed up at his campaign, and somebody took the mic and was speaking. So they thought that was really aggressive, like, oh my god. They haven't shot nobody up yet. Okay? Let me not say too much. Okay? So, the terrorist group, I hear that and I'm just, you're an absolute joke. Okay? It's just you. Okay? Now, I'm sorry. I'm recovering. Let me give an example. A specific one, you see. Because I was in class, I ain't gonna say his name. Let us not. I was in class. There was a certain teacher, much respect. However, this was way back when they were doing the debates, and it was Hillary and it was Bernie, and it was one of their like first ones though between those two. And a young man got up on the screen because it was like a video question, and it was a black young man. And he said, it was a question for Bernie Sanders. The young man said, do Black Lives Matter or do all lives matter? And Bernie said, Black Lives Matter. Now, the teacher says he thought that was the dumbest question he's ever heard. He was like, clearly, it's all lives matter. Now, this is a time where I was so confused by that statement because this is a teacher. So I was a little like, I was feeling a little prejudiced vibe. So I went up to him. I waited till after class, y'all. I still wasn't about to, excuse me, I waited till after class. But I think there was somebody who spoke out and said they agreed with all lives matter. I didn't speak to them. But I went up to him after class and I said, so you don't think it's Black Lives Matter? He says to me, he says, I understand that Black Lives Matter is the obvious epidemic when it comes to police brutality. I should have said no, we're the absolute epidemic of wrongdoing. Okay, so it's just wrongdoing against us. That's what I should have said. But I threw him a bone. I compromised. And Malcolm X said that in the book. He said, remember when he was in jail and there was a pastor and he asked him, he said, Jesus was black. And then I'm going to cut it short, but the pastor, because at first he was just saying Jesus was white, but the pastor goes on to say Jesus is brown, and Malcolm said okay, because it was a compromise. He said he knew he was never going to get him to say black, and he could have been there all day with him, but he said, okay, I'm going to give you a compromise. So that's what I did. He said epidemic for police brutality. I threw him a bone. I said okay. And so he says, but in general terms, I do think that, all lives matter, and that black people deserve to be treated right, is what he said. African Americans deserve to be treated just like everybody else does. So I said, okay. I just wanted to make sure you weren't making any racist statements. And he's like, no, I would never do that, and this and the third, which I don't know, hasn't really proven this, because he said a couple other things that I'm kind of looking at you like, what are you doing? Okay, like, are you forgetting that you're white, or how does that work? I don't know. Anyway, so, and you often hear people say they understand where Black Lives Matter comes from. Okay, well, if you understand it, then you'd be supporting it, and all lives matter will be just as a joke to you as it is to many of us Africans. You know what I mean? So when somebody says they understand, but your all lives matter, I don't think that you can't understand. I will not say that I understand when people say all lives matter, because I don't. Because then that would mean I'm a supporter of it, and I'm not. Not of the term, not of that hashtag and whatever else. Okay, now, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I understand it, I'm for it, and that's what it is. And I brought even many of my white friends onto it, because or else I can't deal with you. And they know this. I can't have every time, because I say it a lot, it's Black Lives Matter. I cannot have a constant veto of all lives matter, because that's really going to start to get on my nerve. Not as somebody who doesn't respect opinions, because I respect opinions, even the rudest ones. I will still respect your opinion, but I cannot have that every single time I say it, it's all lives matter. No, that's a joke, because that'll start to piss me off. Honestly, I'm sorry, you guys, excuse my language. That'll begin to make me upset, and it's going to cause issues in the friendship. And I think people understand. I'm not saying they just went Black Lives Matter for me. I'm saying I was explaining it so well that it wasn't an attack on all races. And I was explaining to them that ideology that a lot of white people have, that if it doesn't include them, it's automatically against you. Which sometimes it is. But in this case, it was really just to stress the fact that it's what black people are going through in this nation. Because nobody else is facing that degree. Okay, Hispanics, they come very close. Alright, and they're going through a lot as well, so Hispanic lives matter also. Okay. So, but I don't wanna steer off now. Black Lives Matter. So when I was explaining to them the ideology that with white people, and it was difficult to get, once you're talking about them, it's I can't hear this, so it was difficult to get them to understand, to listen. And there's still a few of them who are they just won't. But to explain to them that ideology that a lot of white people think, if you are not included, if it doesn't necessarily include them, it automatically is attacking them. Which is ridiculous. Okay? So when I finally got them to understand this, they said, okay, well, that's kind of true. Especially one young man. He was really understanding that. He was like, wow, I never really looked at it like that before. Okay, you know what I'm saying? So I asked him recently, because I haven't checked with him since then. I asked him, I say, so are you still all lives matter? He goes, no, to be honest with you I was, but now I just look at it like it's a joke. Because I understand they're not necessarily saying screw all white people. They're just saying it's Black Lives Matter. And I said, finally, you understand. And he told me to be quiet and all this, that, and the third. But just to finally be able to get through to somebody relating to African issues in this nation is one of the best feelings that you could ever have, with somebody coming up to you and telling you, you know what, you were right. And now I understand. I'll give you another one. My friend and I, she's African, like pure, authentic African. She's from Sudan. And we used to have disagreements as far as relating to, can Africans be racist? Now, I was very quiet about my specific answer to that question. She made it clear that she thought that I was saying Africans cannot be racist. Now, she said African Americans could be racist. Now, I'm asking her questions. You know, I'm just telling her, I'm playing devil's advocate, whatever. And I'm asking her, I say to her, I says, so how could a society built on white men's lies and deceit, how can you then take that society, throw us into it, because you cut us off from our language, from our families, from our homes, from our countries? Now, I think you have to pay thousands of dollars to just figure out what part of Africa you're from specifically. I mean, of course, unless you have family that you know that still lives there. I don't. So I don't know. I'm told it would take thousands of dollars for me to find out what part of Africa I'm from specifically. Anyway. How can you take that, throw us into it, literally, and then say that we are racist against you? That's a joke to me. Now, and I told her this, and she says, Jada, you're sounding a lot like a racist. I said, if that was possible, okay, I still wouldn't be sounding like a racist because that's just truth. You understand? So she used to be really heavy, even her as an African calling me a black supremacist. I know, right? I spoke to her, I don't know, maybe that was a couple weeks ago because we were going to a college fair. And we're on the bus, you know, we're on our way there. And she's talking to me. She goes, you know what? You know, you were right. Like, I'm understanding that a black person cannot be racist for the exact reason that I proclaimed. She said, this is the white man's society, so how can, that we were thrown into, so how can the black man person be racist? I said, I'm so glad we could finally agree. And we had this whole discussion on our way to the, I think they call it the Coliseum or something like this. The college fair. I'm calling it the college fair. And she's speaking to me. She was like, and then we're going in on different subjects. We're like, okay, so what do you, I asked her, I said, so what are you thinking right now about white women wanting to wear dashikis? And she was completely, no, like, nah, that needs to stop. Like, we're over that. And I was surprised. You guys would have had to have been there for her intensity of almost just thinking that I was just black supremacist and black, you know, whatever. And so for us to be having this conversation was really, because I was like, wow, like, you really think so? And she's saying, she's like, yeah, she's like, how can you wear something and not understand, not know the story behind it? Now, I will confess to you, I didn't know the story behind dashikis. I said, let me go educate myself, because I sure as heck can't be taught. At the time I spoke to her, I did. But when it was this big thing about dashikis, I said, hold on a second. I don't even know the story behind this. So I said, let me go and take my ignorant self and go find out what the story behind this is. And I find out, the clothing was an act of rebellion. People, they were telling them how to dress and what to wear. And they said, you know what, nah, forget that. This is going to be our clothing. This is our act of rebellion. This is what we need to do. You feel me? So, us to be able to have a conversation about that was out of this world. And it's just such a good feeling, y'all, when you're on the same level. That's why I tell you, no disrespect to anybody else, but that connection that you have with an African friend, an African person, is out of this world. I'll tell you this, I have another friend. She's also from Sudan. They're both Sudanese. And when we're talking about racial issues, cultural issues, I've never had a better conversation with any race. Even when we're disagreeing, it's the best conversation because we are culturally connected, you see. My one friend from Sudan, she calls me her Yad, my sister. And we do that. And we are two different religions, because I'm Jehovah's Witness and she is Muslim. So, but we even have this, we have like our little insider things. And we understand each other because we ask questions about each other's religion. to understand it and to know what's going on so that those things don't separate us. You know what I'm saying? If something, and I'm not the kind of person who, if something makes sense to me, I'm still gonna do the other thing. No. She's Muslim, so you know she doesn't eat pork, and I thought about giving up pork for a very long time, prior to this discussion. But she was talking to me, and you know I knew before that there are several diseases linked to pork, and she's talking to me. She goes, you know, swine is the dirtiest animal, even when it's clean. And I'd heard that, but to hear her say it was, I don't know. And I was like, you know what? I've been thinking about giving up pork. And she was like, you could, you know, do it. And she'd been bugging me about it for a while. And, cause she would just be like, I see you still eating that ham. And, you know, the second and third, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. So I gave up pork, a few months ago. Like I said, because if something makes sense to me, how can you still do the other thing when that makes sense? Come on now. So although we have different religions, and she's the same way, if something makes sense to her, she'll be like, well, I never thought about it like that. You know, it makes perfect. We're not trying to convert each other. It's not a game of conversion. We just explain things to each other, and she'll come out, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay, I never thought about it. That makes the perfect gosh daggone sense too. So even with her being a Muslim and my being Jehovah's Witness, it doesn't, there's no collision. We could talk about religion without there being this huge thing. No, you're wrong, and this. We could talk about it. You know, it's not a big thing. With many of my other friends who are of different religions, religion is usually, it is almost a problem when we talk about it. It's not a good conversation at all. There will be that, no, you're wrong, or that's dumb, or why do you do that, or that's so strict, and, you know, which you hear a lot with Jehovah's Witness. And I think you hear that with Muslim, too, not trying to compare the two, because they're very different. But as far as being strict religions, I feel like you always hear that with Muslim, oh, that's a really strict religion, why are you, and I hear that a lot as being, you know, I'm studying to become a Jehovah's Witness. You hear a lot of, well, that's really strict, like, why do you do that, that's weird, or, you know, you're never gonna find a guy like that, and blah, blah, blah. So, it made it that much easier. And with her being an African, like I said, speaking about racial issues is just, I'm talking to, like, almost myself, because we understand each other that well, you know. So it's always a good conversation, always a good vibe. I met her my junior year of high school. I'm a senior now, and I feel like I've known her almost my entire life. So that's no disrespect to my other friends, but like I said, once we get that conversation started, it's a wrap. You know? It'll be the two of us will be debating something with somebody else. You don't stand a chance. It's a joke. Because we understand now, what I will say about her, I'm going to keep it 100. She likes white men. Okay. So that's the thing that we will be at odds with. But like I said, it's always a good conversation. But we'll still be, I'm still looking at her like, how clear, Paradise, I say, how could you be conscious if you are, you want a white man, you know? And she is very closed off to dating a black man. Like I said, and I said this in a video that I released on Facebook that I got a lot of flack from. I said, if you want to mix and match, that's your prerogative, but at least try your own race. She is not interested in a black man, an African man at all. So me and her will be at odds with that, and I'll tell her, I'll be like, Paradise, you're an African queen. You understand? You need to go get you an African king. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I tell her. She's young now, so I don't be telling her to be dating or nothing like that. I believe, actually, she just turned 18 today. So I tell her, I say, no, Paradise, and we'll have our thing about that. There'll still be love, but it is still, girl, I'm really serious. You need to go ahead and get on that, and you need to stop. Okay? So, but like I said, back to the main point. When it comes to All Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter, I think you need to understand what it is that you're standing behind. Because like I said, the white young man I spoke to, who was All Lives Matter, he didn't really even understand what Black Lives Matter meant. He thought it was a hate group. Because that's what he was hearing from everybody. Oh, Black Lives Matter is a hate group. They support nobody but black. No. It's not a hate group. It specifically focuses on the problems of Africans in this nation. And some people don't even think they're doing a good enough job. Okay? So, and it almost be a thing of, you know, Jada, how did you get so... I've always felt strongly about my people, especially my father. You guys, if you meet my father is a guy you either like him or you don't, because he's very real and he's very honest. My father and I, before he whooped me, we would even have our little, no, Dad, you're wrong. And yeah, at a certain age, it just became, we are having a conversation and he's not going to spank me for, giving my view on that. But my father is very conscious, and he was telling me at an early age that this is the white man's society. And I'm like, Dad, really? Like, but, then not everybody's bad in this, that. And he would just want to smack me for that. So my dad is, I tell you, either you like him or you don't. So I've always been very strong about, my people and connection to them. Because really my dad was really heavy on. I asked him, I said, Dad, you never dated outside your race? He said no. He said, why would I do that when everybody else is making the effort to date their own people? Ain't nobody else really trying to date us, so why do we have to step outside of, why does the black man have to step outside of his race? And this was like when I was like 11 years old, and I'm talking to my dad, and I'm like, that made like the perfect sense. You know what I'm saying? He like, yeah, Jada, and he was even explaining to me, because I was being picked on, by people, people like me, by African people, by, Hispanics, which at the time I didn't know that we were actually culturally connected. I'm getting to that in a second. But, so I'll be like, Dad, why are they calling me, I would call it African booty scratcher and stuff, and I didn't understand. I was like, why are they calling me that? Like, we look the same. And my father told me it's because they don't know the history. They don't know that they're from Africa, that our people were slaves. And I'm like, yo, for real? And then I would ask, because Hispanics, they were picking on me too, but I didn't think, I just was confused by that, because I was like, I grew up on the west side of where I live, and they were on the block, the same block as us. I always thought the Hispanics were cool, so I'm like, at this point, it wasn't even that strong, because I didn't think we were culturally connected. I just thought we was cool, like blacks and Hispanics, we cool. And my dad explained to me, he was like, yeah, that actually is real bad, because they don't even know that all the Hispanics are just all mixed. They're just a mixed up origin. They're Taino Indians, they're African, they're European. And I was like, Dad, they're Hispanic. Like, I was just like, no, Dad, that don't make sense. And he was like, Jada, I'm telling you, go look up the origin. Sure enough, I did, and they are, mixed. And some of them know that, and some of them don't. So when I say to them, because I'm conscious now, I'm like, like when you talk about yourself, because I was talking to a white friend, actually, and I know y'all like, dang, I'm trying to help him. Okay? And her boyfriend is Hispanic. And so she asked me, because we were having a conversation. It started off on Malcolm X, because they were trying to call him out of his name and stuff like, so we first got into that. And then so she starts telling me, she's like, well, how would you feel if her boyfriend Hispanic, said the N-word? And I was like, he would you be pretty much talking about yourself, because we were both enslaved, although, and not even really in different regions, because Africans were brought over with the Taino Indians, because Spaniards came and stole their land. They seen that the Indians were building up, they had their vegetables and they were growing. So they said, let us enslave the Indians. And later on, the Indian race started to die out. Africans came over. They started to intermarry with the Indians, and bam, there's where we have there's some Hispanics who have more European and some more African. The Spaniards were raping the Indian women. So there you have some who look more, of white, and a little, like, you could tell their hair is a different grade and things like that. Anyway, so I was like, you be, talking about yourself. And he's like, how? I'm Hispanic. And I was like, well, clearly you don't know that you're mixed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, mestizo, I believe, is what it's called, the actual term. And he said, but we were enslaved by different people. Hispanics were enslaved by Spaniards and French people. I said, okay, white people? Huh? And he said, no. French. And so I said, oh, white people. Okay. They both have a language, just white. Okay, no disrespect. I know there's culture and stuff behind that, but I'm just saying. Okay. So, me and him are still getting into the little conversation. We still doing it to this day, because he can't seem to get it through his head. And then even more so, it's even more of a blanket statement for him, because then he later on tells me, oh, actually, you don't even need to tell me that, because my father is black. I said, so then you half Hispanic, half black, so then you got even more African descent than I might have thought, which he looks more like he's got a more of a European Indian mix, but there's some African in there. And obviously, because his father is black. But so, like I'm saying, everybody, just once you don't understand something and you speak about it, your ignorance begins to show. So when you're speaking about something, I like to always make sure I know what's going on. If somebody tells me something and I don't know, I'm gonna say, look, I don't know. I'm gonna do some research on that so we could talk about it tomorrow. And that's usually what'll happen. You know, a lot of time I'll know what's happening, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, God, I didn't hear about that. You don't explain that to me, or I'll check on it, and then we'll speak about it tomorrow. So I have my interpretation ready, and we could either debate it or we could be in agreement about it. Whatever you want to do, because I'm ready. You know, so when it comes to something like All Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, you have to fully, when it comes to standing behind anything for that matter, but I'm talking about these two specifically, you have to understand what's behind the name. When all you're hearing is that, oh, it's Black Lives Matter is a hate group, you can't just believe. You got to do your research and see what's going on. Well, wait a minute. Have they showed up and shot anybody down? Huh? Have they put we hate white people or we hate people of other races? No. So they don't meet the criteria for a hate group. Okay? And as far as All Lives Matter, you have to understand that if you don't understand the meaning behind Black Lives Matter, you don't understand the meaning behind All Lives Matter either. Which All Lives Matter is just a cry for we want to be included too. So you have to try and understand that as well before you're going to speak out on any type of racial indifference that's going on in this nation. You understand? So, and as somebody who I don't try, and that's everybody's problem. Oh, you think you're superior to me? You think you're better than everybody? You think this and no, I don't think that. I just know what's happening, and once I try to kick the truth to you, you just that don't make sense. Okay, well go look it up. You understand? Because I know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? In fact, people know me as I talk about the Jedi a lot. You know, of course, I'll do my homework and then I'll go watch his video and then he'll say something. I'm like, let me go check that out. You know, just, I know, you know, he wouldn't lie or anything, but he'll even say it. He'll be like, don't take my word for it. I want you to go look. And of course I do. Or else you're just regurgitating. And he also says that. If you're just taking what somebody's saying and repeating it, but you don't know the meaning behind it, it's just, you really don't know what you're talking about. You taking their word for it. So I always want to confirm. So, but the people know me because I call him, you know, that's my big brother on YouTube. And they know they can't even really have a conversation with me if I'm not talking about the Jedi. They'll be like, oh, here Jada go with the Jedi again. I'm like, yeah, you need to go check out his channel. And it's always, oh, well, I checked out his channel, but the videos are too long. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't even know how you're speaking to me right now. Because it's... And they say the same thing to me. Oh, Jada, your videos are too long. I'm like, when I did videos on Facebook, they were 8 and 13 minutes. Oh, well, you know teenagers have short attention spans. Oh, well, obviously. I tell them to go just watch one video. Oh, no, it's too long and this, that, and the third. I say, okay, well, you're missing out on incredible knowledge that you could be receiving from the Jedi. And when you don't want to, even if you hear something that you don't necessarily agree with, okay, well, look it up. So you can have your argument and debate ready. Because, you know, I've already seen the video that I'm telling you to go watch. So you could come back to me at school the next day and be like, okay, well, I looked this up and this, that, and the third. Don't go watch a video or some of it and then come and tell me, oh, well, I didn't like what he was saying. I thought it was racist. Because all I'm going to say to you is you're in incredible ignorance. And that's what I say to them. I say, I bet you didn't even finish the video. Oh, no, I didn't have to finish the video because you didn't finish the video because you have a short attention span and you weren't interested. So they try to play it another, oh, I was so offended that I couldn't finish the video. You're lying. You know what I mean? So just don't do that. There will be some who come to me and be honest and Jada, I couldn't get through the video because it was too long and this, that, and the third. And I could at least respect you for being honest. You got to learn how to sit down because if you can't get through, and some of his videos are like 45 minutes. If you can't get through a 45-minute video, how are you going to sit through a college lecture? Both have information that you need if you really sit there and listen. You know? So anyways, you guys, that's my take on All Lives Matter, Black Lives. Know what you're standing behind. Don't take other people's words for it. Okay? Just know what you're talking about, period. Alright, y'all. It's your girl, Jada J. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for sticking with me. More of these to come. Better ones, I hope. Better developed, better analyzed, better delivered. All right. So, as you know, it's your girl Jada J. Thank you for watching.